What's it like being a female expat in Asia? How do female expats feel about the much older men with the much younger girls? And what is the most successful way to use an Asian squat toilet? Well, if those questions or anything about being an expat are of interest to you, it is great to have you with me. My name is Wendy, and for more than 3 decades, I've lived and worked in 5 different countries in Asia. And I still live and work in Asia, now in Thailand. And today I want to talk about something that's forefront of my mind because I've noticed a big change, particularly in the last couple of months. Now, we all know what's going on in the world, and it's not really great. And normally in Thailand, we'd be coming to the end of the high season, and the snowbirds would go home. We call them snowbirds because they come to places like Southeast Asia for 3 months or 6 months of the year, usually in the winter time. And don't get me wrong, the snowbirds are starting to leave, but a lot of them have also chosen to stay. And what I've also noticed, particularly in the town that I live, is that there's a lot more inquiry and, in fact, a lot more arrivals from people who've decided to adopt the expat life in Southeast Asia. And so I wanted to talk about a really important topic for people who are moving to a place for the first time, and that's how to set themselves up with friendships and to be able to join groups so that they get to be part of the community as quickly as they can, because that's really important. You're going to need some support at some time, and the best way to do that is to try and meet some people who've either arrived like you and you're all new together and you all learn things together, or to talk to some expats who've been around for a little while. So there's a few clubs and groups that have been throughout Southeast Asia for a very long time, and I'm not going to list them all. The best way for you to find out what's available where you're moving to is obviously to get on Dr. Google and start doing some searches, and it won't take you long. But to give you an idea, there's quite a few places, a few clubs that have been around for a very, very long time, very well established, and are a great foot in the door, if you like, as to way to meet people and to start to set down some roots, so that when the time comes when you need to ask for some help or you need a bit of assistance in something, you've got somebody to ask. The first group I want to talk about is a really fun group that I have joined a few times. I'm not a regular member. One of my neighbours is one of the organisers of our local chapter of the Hash House Harriers. If you've never heard of the Hash House Harriers, I believe it actually started with the British Army in India, and the Hash House was where they went to go and have food after their run. So the Hash House Harriers describe themselves as a drinking club with a running problem, but in actual fact what it is a running problem. And you don't, well, not a running problem, a running group. And you don't have to be a great runner. Basically somebody sets out a trail and everybody sets off on the trail together. You're never left alone. You'll meet some new people while you're walking or running. You don't have to run. And then at the end what they do is they usually stand around in a circle, and there's a whole palaver about everybody having sort of titivatingly rude names and drinking beer or not drinking beer. You don't have to be a drinker to join the Hash House Harriers. The Hash House Harriers have been around forever. Now, when I first heard of them, I actually thought I was a bit stupid, and I thought they were running hash. Somebody said, we're going to run the hash, and I thought it was a drug reference. It is not a drug reference, I assure you. So if you're interested in something like that, you want to get out and see different parts of the place that you're living in, you might want to join the Hash House Harriers. And there are chapters of the Hash House Harriers everywhere in Southeast Asia. For women, there's lots and lots of women's groups. So where I live in Hua Hin in Thailand, you could look up the Hua Hin Ladies Facebook group. That's a very proactive group, more than 5,000 women who, organise all sorts of things and are there for all sorts of references. So if you needed the name of a good paediatrician, somebody there can help you. But there's groups like all around Asia. If you're British, you can join British Women's Associations. You can look for those. If you're Americans, you can look for American Association. There's loads of those as well. There's also a club in Malaysia, if you're moving to Malaysia, called MANZA, the Malaysian Australian New Zealand Association. And I actually was one of the presidents of that very, very long time ago when I lived in Malaysia. Now, I'm not saying that you have to stick with your countrymen. Maybe you don't want to, maybe you're American and you never want to speak to another American ever again. That's okay too, because a lot of these groups are very international, and you will also meet locals in that group. So you might meet locals who have either spent some time in your home country, or they're married to somebody who's in that home country. So you'll find a a lot of interesting people like that. Let me have a look at some of the others. Some of the really big ones. The Lions Club is very active in Southeast Asia, as are Rotary. That's another volunteer group that we know do a lot of great things. There's the Internations Club, Internations, that is to say, Internations Club. And anything at all, if you're interested in business, there's loads and loads of connections for business. But if you're not in business, if you're retired or you're moving with a young family, don't forget the schools are a great way to meet people. And I always think it's much easier if you do have children. That certainly helped me when my kids were young in Asia. That helped me to kind of meet other people. But if you're not in that situation, there will be local book clubs. And if there isn't one, then make sure you start one. There'll be local, jazz dancing and hip hop and things like that. And I've said in other videos that sometimes I get a bit surprised when people sort of say things like, what's the closest line dancing club? Well, in a town like mine, there's not a whole lot of line dancing, but that doesn't mean you can't start these clubs yourself, all right? You have to get onto one of these internet groups. Particularly, I'm speaking to women now, particularly, women are very good at supporting each other, but guys, it's the same. Just even if you're a guy, you ought to ask a question of the women's groups. We don't all bite. So you could always ask. And if there isn't something that suits you, then you can set one up for yourself. And you'll be surprised at the number of people who would like to come and join you. It is super important that you make at least a few connections as quickly as you can when you move to your new place. Because when you get that bill that's all in another language for the electricity and you don't understand it, and you've used Google Translate and you're still not sure, or you think that there's a problem, perhaps you're being overcharged, it's great to be able to speak to someone who's had experience in the town that you're living in or the city that you're living in, who can just kind of calm the waters for you and lead you through. Do these people become your lifelong friends forever? No, maybe not. It does take some time to meet your true tribe, but at least most expats have all expats have been new in a country at some point. And most of us tend to remember those times and try and be as helpful as we can, where we can, for anybody that's new. So don't be frightened if that sort of worries you. And once you've set up those few friendships, it'll take a little while. Maybe you'll not fall out with these people, but maybe you'll see less of them and meet some other people. Maybe you're into crafts and you'll meet some crafty people. And then after a little while, you'll get your little circle that will take care of you, and you'll take care of each other in your new home away from home. I do recommend checking out any of the keywords that particularly interest you in the town that you're planning to move to before you move. And that way you can start to ask a few questions and get the lay of the land to try and get some understanding. Remember, agents and things are not always your friend. So if you've met this fantastic real estate agent who's going to sort it out for you, ask some people who really live there locally as well. That's going to be very, very helpful to you. I hope that assuages any of your concerns. I have noticed, as I said, a big uptake in the number of people moving to Southeast Asia at the moment, and I'm not surprised why. And if that is the case for you, please do leave a comment down below. Tell me where you're thinking of moving to, and tell me any of the concerns that you might have. We'll see if we can answer some questions for you. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.